obviously the rifle issue has been, it's been a pretty big issue the last week or so. I know the FOP, but we had asked for officers to carry their own, which I've denied and really been against up to this point, although I'm still against it because officers using personal rifles, they still have to be authorized. They still have to be what we would allow them to carry, and then they would carry our ammunition. We issue our own ammunition. The only difference is that it'll be temporary, and then I'll replace those rifles as soon as we can get them in and get them ordered. Because I still do not want officers using their own personal rifles or high-powered weapons. I want us to have those rifles. And my opinion has always been if we're going to require officers to carry equipment, we should buy it for them. They shouldn't be buying their own equipment or have to for what we ask them to do on the streets. So it's a little bit different than handguns because, someone will say, well, you let them carry their own handguns. And we do, but we issue everybody handguns in the beginning. And they get a handgun from the city. If they choose to have a different firearm, because handguns in many cases are, one size does not fit all, and you may have somebody who wants a different style that fits better and they can shoot better with. That's okay, but there is no disparate treatment there because we issue them handguns. With rifles, we don't. We don't issue rifles. So I've always tried to avoid disparate treatment where we're issuing rifles to some and making others pay for their own. That does not. I don't support that. And it becomes an issue at some point in negotiations and with the unions and things like that, so I try to avoid that. The rifles themselves, I really have felt like we've had rifles since 2007. I mean, and people don't quite understand that. They're like saying this is something new. It's not. In 2007, when the ban was lifted on the sale of assault rifles, which had been placed during the Bush administration, I think for about 10 years, there was a ban on assault rifles, maybe longer. Well, that changed and that ban was discontinued. So at that point, I felt like officers needed to be able to, if they were confronted with rifles, to be able to combat that with firepower, at least equally to that. So we added them in 2007. I added more last year. There's more and more assault rifles out there. And the goal was to make sure at least we had an assault rifle on the scene in case we have something like Dallas or we have something like Baton Rouge. So, but after Baton Rouge, if I can make officers feel more comfortable and that they have a rifle and they're prepared, then I need to do that right now because officers feel very vulnerable and it's justified. You see the things that are happening. It's justified that they feel vulnerable. It's justified that their families are worried about, their husband or wife going out into the field. So, after Sunday, it's just almost impossible for me not to say you shouldn't be carrying a rifle if that makes you feel like you're able to defend yourself. Again, it's not going to be the answer, but, it may only add 100 more rifles out there because we already have almost 60% authorized to carry those rifles now.
So as a department, are you guys going to add rifles, but until they get here, whatever that happens, you're allowing people to carry?
There are some officers that have rifles that the city would approve. They'd be the same style, basically the same type of rifle that we're issuing. We issue a single type of rifle, which is a Rock River 223. It's like an AR-15 style rifle. So if it meets those standards, then we will allow them to qualify with that rifle. We will issue them the ammunition because I do not want them to use their own ammunition. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be something we bought. We need to make sure that it's quality, that it's dependable, and then if something goes wrong with it, then it's a liability issue. We need to make sure that we can defend that. So yes, it'll be temporary. If they have a rifle, some of them are already qualified because they've gone through the school, they're qualified. I just won't allow them to carry them or haven't allowed them to carry them. And as of Sunday, I basically said I'm going because of the nature of what's going on. I'm going to let you do that. And I have to balance that. What they're saying, what the community says, and I know Grace. I've talked to her briefly about it. I understand that. That's a balance that even officers sometimes don't understand that I have to make in trying to balance that, fear of police or militarization, because over the years, I've really tried to protect the department from over-militarizing police because I don't believe we're to that point yet. some 50 years from now, you may have the military patrolling the streets. But, that's going to be up to our political leaders to make decisions and do things and make laws that's going to help make police do their job easier so that we don't have to militarize.
Okay, so I just want to make it clear. Is the department getting more rifles besides the ones that are going to be personal use?
Yes, have I not made that clear?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then in the meantime.
We're ordering, I had already set it to order 85. We're probably going to increase that order. Because I don't know right now, because right now, not every officer's going to want to carry a rifle. I have 211 officers carrying rifles today on the street. I authorized several weeks ago, before everything happened, I'd already authorized all supervisors to have them, which we have about 85. Now, not all supervisors are going to want to carry them, so it would be less than that. And we're surveying to see how many officers actually want to carry rifles, and that'll determine how many we need to order. It may be 25, 50, it may be another 100. It's not going to be the total 500, over 500, because not everybody's going to want to carry them. So, so that's what we're going to do. We're ordering ammunition to get the ammunition is the expensive part. The firearms will last. You can buy a firearm $1,200, $1,300. The rifle, and it's going to last you a long time. If we take care of them, those rifles will last a long time. Ammunition, we have to qualify, we have to issue it, we have to, it's going to be, that's the huge cost,
What's your timeline to have more rifles in hand?
As soon as possible. That's my timeline.
Okay.
It's right now, sometimes it's hard to get ammunition. You have to order ammunition quite a ways out. I've got to have additional ammunition. Qualification and training on those rifles is significant. And we can't put officers out there if they aren't really efficient in the use of those. And so you shoot a lot of rounds in the beginning to qualify and to become really certified to use that rifle. So we've got to have the ammunition to do that. And it does, in this day and time, it takes a lot between military, between us. It takes a while to get our ammunition. Rifles, we probably get a little more quickly. We may be able to get the rifles before we have to issue any, but we should have enough with some of the officers who are already qualified with their own rifle to issue them some ammunition, quickly qualify them again and put them back out on the street. So they'll have them today. And that, if they can do that, we just have to balance that. We have policies and procedures in place. My concern's always been, just as the community is that we have officers running around and all these calls with rifles slung over their shoulder. And it's, in most cases in police work, that's not necessary. I don't want officers running up and down the street looking for a burglary suspect with a rifle slung over their shoulder. These rifles and our policies and procedures are specifically meant for these really serious, firearm situations where they may be outgunned. So they can't pull the rifles out all the time on a traffic stop. You're not going to walk somebody on a traffic stop because you're afraid they have a gun. Now, if it's an armed robber and they've had some shots fired, it may be a different situation. But it's very limited as to when they can pull those rifles out. So,
Where's the money coming from?
The money?
Yes.
It's coming. It'll have to come from the city somewhere. General fund, I imagine. So
Okay.
We'll just have to. In this budget time, it's a little bit more of a struggle. It's and again, it's costly. I think if you average per officer annually with all the ammunition that's needed, I think it averages out to about $581 per officer. That's just for ammunition.
With a rifle, or that's just
Rifle. That doesn't include sidearm
okay,
ammunition.
$500 just in
Over
ammunition for every
just
rifle,
in yeah.
not counting the price of the rifle.
Right.
Wow.
And you did not expand or grow the body camera program this year because of budget
No,
issues, right?
Not actually. Even we have the 100 cameras out there now.
Right.
What we're doing with our Justice Assistance Grant that we're receiving this year, we'll have enough money in that to be able to probably purchase another 100 cameras as long as we can get through this issue with the policy. Because the FOP isn't against cameras. That's not the issue. It's never been the issue. It's against how we use those cameras and how I hold officers accountable for the use of those cameras. And my position has always been that we need to be able to audit, monitor, and look at the video in those cameras. And so, but I think we're working through that. I'm pretty positive about being able to work through that, in the near future.